today is special because we're actually going live on Facebook and Instagram at the same time. So if you're just joining in, welcome to the Haven Hang. I'm saxophonist and vocalist Camille Thurman, and I have my special guest that I've been quarantining with, Charenee Wade. Please give it up for Charenee.
Hi. Hey.
Oh, okay. We're finally up and running.
All right.
It took a second, but we here.
You fancy tech person.
Yeah, I try. It's definitely a learning curve. So, the Haven Hang is a virtual mentorship series where I bring in special guests that are musicians or women that are involved in the arts, and we get to talk about how we started our journey, what inspired us to get on this creative path, and also the challenges and the difficulties, and also the things that we happen to overcome and learn about ourselves in the process of developing as a woman and a woman in the arts, a musician, dancer, writer, creative being. So today my guest is my really, really close friend, Charenee Wade, who is a dynamic powerhouse vocalist and also an amazing and incredible educator. And I just figured we just talk like we normally do.
Should we go tell them all? No.
Oh, well, maybe the edited. No, but Charenee is an incredible person. She has such great wisdom for so many young women musicians, and I figured this will be a great opportunity to share some of her wisdom with the world, and especially for you young ladies out there that are trying to figure out how this journey gets going and how to start it. So, my first question is, what made you pick a career in the arts? How were you inspired to pursue singing jazz?
So I really think that it chose me, to be honest, because I had the bug, got bitten by the bug when I was like in first grade, and I was singing, in choirs, school choirs, that is. And by the time I got to junior high school, I was playing in the marching band, but singing with the jazz band.
Right.
And I think I had decided that this is something I wanted to do by the time I got to high school, because I went to LaGuardia.
LaGuardia, LAG.
It's okay. So, by then I knew I wanted to do it, but I didn't know if I could, because there wasn't a pathway already set out. And my mom is an educator, English. She was the English teacher at the time when I was coming up. And so, that was a clear pathway. If you wanted to do something artsy, then become a teacher. That's how my mom kind of saw it. Yeah. Have something to fall back on, right?
Yeah.
So, I think the day that I decided that I really wanted to do it, I was at this summer school program. I think it's NISA, New York State Summer Schools of the Arts, or something like that.
Really?
Yeah, NISA. Not to be confused with NISMA.
NISA.
NISA.
I never heard of NISA. Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I went there, I think I did that 3 years in a row. And I just had this moment, because we spend 2 months out in, what was it, Fredonia?
Get out.
Yeah, near Chautauqua.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm just making sure I didn't make that up.
That makes sense, because Chautauqua is way that
right
way.
there. Yeah. So we spent I think about 6 to 8 weeks all together, the whole choir together. We learned all this great music. We got private lessons. We got theory classes. And so it was round the clock, eat, drink, sleep, music.
Yeah.
And I woke up one morning and I was like, this is the life I want to live. So I think that was the turning point for me. And then the rest of it was just figuring out how to do it, especially since I didn't have anybody in my family to kind of follow along their pathway or to create that had some guidance for me. So.
Right. And how old were you when this decision kind of came to be?
Yeah, that was like, I think I was a junior in high school. So how old was I? Carried it to minus 55. No, 16 years old.
16.
About 16.
Okay. And did you know of any jazz vocalists at that time that inspired you?
Oh,
or...
absolutely. I could go down the list.
Pray tell.
So there was the first person that took me under her wing is a vocalist. She was based in New York, but she's now at North Carolina Central.
Okay.
Her name's Lenora Zenzele Helm.
Oh, Lenora. Okay.
Yes. And she took me around everywhere. When she found out that I sang jazz and I wanted to really do it, she took me to International Women in Jazz. She took me to see Diane Reeves for the first time. I think Diane was playing at SOBs, and I got to meet her. She encouraged me to say hello to her. Got Diane Reeves to come to the show that I was doing through IWJ as a result of getting their
Diane
teen
came
award.
because of her?
Yes.
That is so killing. I'm sorry, I'm trying to reconnect Instagram because it kind of cut off. Sorry, Instagram people. That's amazing.
I know, it's crazy. And so, and I was nervous. So I was such a shy kid that I probably wouldn't have had the gall to go up to Diane even if I was there on my own. But she made that happen. She said, "Oh, she's singing in a couple of days. If you happen to be in town, just come by."
That is so amazing.
And Diane actually showed up and sat in the second pew at St. Peter's Church and listened to me. I lost my mind.
Man, I would have lost my mind too, just because it's like Diane Reeves coming to check you out. I mean, yeah. That's awesome.
So the next person after that, like in tandem, so Lenora was always in my life. Then after that, I met Vanessa Rubin.
Oh.
I was obsessed with Vanessa Rubin.
Yeah.
Still am. We're cool now, and she's still somebody that I get to call and like just talk about the business a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah. I forgot. Now, what was your original question? Because now I'm going off on a tangent.
Who were the vocalists that inspired you at that time to get into it? Because, like, I know when you're young, especially when you're 16, 15 years old, it's important to see role models that kind of get you to be like, oh, I can do that too. Yeah. So it was Lenora who made it more tangible, like reachable, because she was actually physically in my space. Mm-hmm. Vanessa Rubin, I actually got to meet her and got to talk to her, and we talked more often. As far as like people who I didn't necessarily get to be in space with all the time. Mm-hmm. I said Diane Reeves. That actually changed over the years. Yeah.
And we got closer. Hi, Diane. Love you. I was really shy as a youngest, so I used to be like, I can't call her. But now that as I got older, I'll be like, hey, Miss Diane.
That's understandable.
So now I bother her. So Cassandra Wilson was another person whose career I was following. Dee Dee Bridgewater.
Oh yeah, Dee Dee.
Oh my God. And bother her as often as I can too.
Yeah. Dee Dee's like a mentor to the both of us.
Yeah. And she's always had such great advice to give over the years, and I've really leaned on her a lot. Let me see, who else? From afar, I was watching Nancy Wilson's career. I was watching, looking back at Carmen McRae's career, Sarah Vaughan's career, looking back on Betty Carter's career, which Betty Carter, just watching the trajectory of what she created as even with the education component, but as an improviser, as an arranger, as a composer, as a band leader. Yeah. Like I was told some stories from some of the rhythm section players that came through her band, where she would sell her own tickets, basically rent out her own venues.
That's a boss move.
Okay. So promoters, because Betty Carter was, some people say, an acquired taste, right? Not everybody loved her at the time that she was out and about. You
She was
either loved her or hated her, right? She was very different, and she, you know, some people complain about the fact that she didn't sing the melody. Well, but that's the exciting thing about her as a jazz musician, to always be in the space of improvisation and retelling of a story. How many different ways can I make that story new and fresh? So that was what was great about her. But the fact that she was like, okay, these promoters are not going to hire me for this festival, this gig or whatever, you know what, I'll get my own venue. She would sell out these venues, and then here come the little people. They went, okay, maybe we can get you to play at such and such. Can you come play at my festival here? But she made the way for herself. That was always very inspiring to me, and I was like, okay, let me pay more close attention to the fact that you might have to create your own path to make it happen. So yeah, that was a big deal. I'm sure there's a bunch of other vocalists inside of there that I was paying attention to, but those were like the major ones.
Yeah, I love Betty because she was her own person. I mean, she had her own label at a time. This is during the 70s.
Exactly.
I mean, and there was a few artists that did that. Mingus, he formed his own label. Charles Tolliver formed his own label. And then you had Betty Carter doing the same thing. And just to hear the stories of how she was packing her own records, putting them together, assembling them, getting shipped to the house. I believe the house on Felix Street in Brooklyn.
In Brooklyn. I walk down that block all the time, say, hey, Betty.
Yeah. And just to think of somebody that great that we look at, to be like, wow, they're their own entrepreneur. They're setting a trend for themselves as an artist, but then also as a business person during a time when not too many artists were doing the same thing or taking the same path. And I didn't even know that she was selling her own tickets to her own show, which is
at times you had to do it because you know, where you going? If the gigs are not coming in, then what you gonna do?
Make your own space.
You got your own niche. You build your own audience. That's the one interesting thing about it. When you build your loyal following, they will follow you the way to the end of time. And that can sustain you if you do it well.
That's so true.
So, you know, it's something to think about. Like, you don't necessarily have to have a Beyonce, for lack of a better description, but when I'm thinking about someone who's making gazillions and gazillions of dollars, you know, it's not it's not the measure of success that you don't make it to that point, right? Because even some of the folks that are at the top of our field ain't even touched that yet. But it's more about being able to sustain a good quality of life. That's how I see it. And if you get there, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
But if at least you can keep your audience who love you, who love what you do, who love what you're about, if you can keep them engaged and take them with you on your journey, that's already a great success in and of itself.
Yeah. And then you're also creating your own path too, which is beautiful, because then you're unique in your own artistry. There's nobody else that's doing what you do. And that's why we love Betty Carter, because it's like, that's Betty Carter. We know her for the way she sings, the way she phrases her melodies, the way she scats, the way she arranges her songs, the way she composes her songs. And I think that's just so inspiring as artists to kind of just want to get a piece of and try
I want a piece of
that.
If I can give me some of that, learn me some of this. Maybe I'll learn how to do something with myself.
So I wanted to ask you, you put out an amazing project a couple of years ago featuring the music of Gil Scott Hair. Charenee is a bad arranger, okay? I don't know if any of y'all know that, but she did a lot. Actually, she did all the arrangements for that album. And then on top of that, she does arrangements for all kinds of other stuff. Like we did a tribute to Sarah Vaughan a couple of years ago at Dizzy's. I posted a little mini smidget clip of it. But she arranged some songs for that project too, and they were killing. So could you talk about what inspired you to pick Gil Scott's music, and how you as an artist, you try to put out music that speaks of what it is that's happening in your community, and how you identify as an artist and a person in your community?
Okay, so we'll start with the story of the project. Mark, so the producer for that album His name is Mark Ruffin.
I'm still trying IG. Dang,
It's
not gonna work.
Come on, IG.
Instagram people, just come on over to Facebook.
So you want me to try it here?
Don't even worry about it. Let's keep
because I don't even know.
We'll do it that later.
Oh, technology. So the Gil Scott Hair record. Okay. So I was at Dizzy's, and I think I was about to go do a gig, and I was sitting out in the hallway in front of one of the rooms, like working on some music or you know. And Mark Ruffin, he works with Sirius XM Radio. He's produced a couple of records prior to this, and he's done a lot of liner notes, and he's done a lot of things. So he was walking by, and I was like, "Hey, Mark, how you doing? What you doing here?" Okay, just working on some music. Oh, all right. Hey. How you feel about Gil Scott Hair? I said, you mean the revolution shall not be televised? And he was like, yeah. I said, yeah, I mean, I dig it. He said, would you be interested in doing a tribute project to him? And I said, let me think about it. Yeah. So he shared some music that he had in the archives, like stuff that you can't find. He shared a bunch of stuff with me, and then I just felt like it was so relevant. Yeah. And I, some of the songs started staying with me throughout the day. I was like obsessively listening to it for 6 months, revisiting stuff that I hadn't listened to in a long time. And then these arrangements started coming, you know. It was just, for me, the reason why I did the project was, it's just a lot of his words were still so poignant for the time. I mean, this was right around when Trayvon, was it Michael Brown or was it Trayvon? Who happened first?
Trayvon happened first, then it was Michael Brown. But I remember it being like the whole big blow up of the Black Lives Matter movement and the protest, and your album literally just dropped. Yeah.
So I think Trayvon was in the midst of me doing the arranging and stuff, and it's just like, I mean, as Black people, we were already experiencing all this, you know. Yeah. You know, I grew up in the 80s in Brooklyn.
90s in Queens.
Yeah. So having to have these kinds of conversations and about racism, about, you know, living in a country that you feel like you don't belong anywhere, you know, having to deal with a level of violence and invisibility at the same time, all of that stuff, I know I've been feeling it since I was little. Yeah. You know, and real. So for me, it was just like, you know, art, I believe, the platform that we have as artists is really powerful, and it's we hold a great responsibility.
We do. We really do.
And I know everybody doesn't agree with this. Some people think that, you know, just it's escapism. Like, if the masses get it, then, you know, if they bump into it, it's fine. I could be saying the most negative thing. But if it sells, then keep selling that. And I can't live with that. That does not feel good to me. What feels right to me is that I make sure that whatever I'm putting out into the ether is going to bring some kind of healing and positivity to the people who receive it. Because music is mantra is meditation. And what we meditate on is what we reenact.
We absorb it, and that's what we become.
Yes. Yeah. And so how else are we going to get to a place where, as a community, we are more empowered, that we are moving forward out of all of that, the mess that came along with, the trauma that came along with being stolen from the motherland? How are we going to start that process if we are not being mindful of what we put out into the ether? Right. As artists.
So true.
So that's how I feel about it personally, and that's why I picked that record, and that's how I want all my music from this point going forth. Yeah. To land on my audience in the world, whoever they are. I mean, you can be black, white, brown, yellow, chartreuse, blue,
green,
yes,
orange,
all of that.
red.
It's about how do we come together as a human community.
Yeah.
Now, that's a big old thing to bite, right? How do we, as communities who have different experiences, respect each other's experiences?
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole nother thing to bite.
Right, and celebrate our differences and our commonalities.
Yes, and I think we need to spend a lot more time celebrating each other's differences.
Oh, yeah.
That would really solve most of these problems.
It would.
You know?
It really would.
So now, since that's such a big, huge thing to bite, I personally will focus on, because it's less overwhelming, just focus on my community. You know what I mean?
That's where you start.
And anybody else who wants to be a part of focusing on our community, because right now we're the ones who are getting hit pretty hard. And if people fight for us, look, people fight for us, people fight for the indigenous people, everybody else will be released.
Yeah.
Especially fight for the indigenous people, because they are the most invisible in respects to how this country treats them.
Yeah.
So, see now, you see, we talk like how we usually talk. We talk how we usually talk. Oh, Lord, Lord. Let me slow down. But that's my point.
This is great. No, this is great.
It's important.
This is great because young artists need to understand the connection between the music and the community. They go hand in hand. It's synonymous. They're not separate entities. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times we have to be conscious of the fact that the place that we live in as our community is a reflection of us, and we're a reflection of the community. So whatever art we produce, we're absorbing what we're living in, and that's what we're presenting. So it's very important to understand that responsibility as an artist and tap into that in any capacity that you can. Mm-hmm. And this is not just for musicians, but it's also for just all platforms. Mm-hmm. And yeah,
like television, movies. I mean, just speaking scientifically, neurologically, what you see makes an imprint on your body. You know, and when trauma hits the body, whether you're watching a scary movie, it stays in there until you release it and can heal it. And if you're not even in a space of awareness that you're holding on to some of this stuff, then you end up living out that stuff,
right? In
some way, shape, or form.
Exactly.
So to me, it's like the visual arts is like, you know, that's why I love me some Ava DuVernay.
Yeah.
I love me some Ava DuVernay because she understands the power of that medium.
Yeah. And
she's very mindful of what she puts out and what, you know, or whomever is directing. I'm thinking about Queen Sugar.
Oh yeah, Queen Sugar's a good show.
Gorgeous. Yeah. Gorgeous. Every aspect of every shot, every moment, every the music, the dialogue, imagery, the story. It has this impact that is, I feel, healed every time, even if it's a hard moment.
Yeah.
So it's like, we got to be mindful of what we do, what we put out, because we're impacting people, we're changing people. You know?
Yeah.
We are.
We are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love you, Charenee.
I love you too.
Oh gosh. So this is kind of actually something for everybody to take in, not just for the young ladies, but men and women. So getting back to the Haven Hang, the focus of the Haven Hang is to create a place or platform for young women musicians to get encouragement. How did you figure out finding your identity and becoming an artist in your experiences in developing yourself as the artist, but also as a person, as a woman in this industry? How did you toughen up and become who you are today and be able to have a clear understanding of this is what I want to do?
I went through a lot. You know, it's just like you go through these tough experiences where you feel that something isn't right. And then you have to make a decision as to whether you want to continue to live like that or whether you want to create a boundary.
Right.
Or a new value, so to speak.
Or abort and go somewhere else.
Exactly. Right. And so I think it's taken me a long time to learn how to decide what I wanted.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because I think I know personally for me, I spent a lot of time, you know, doing what other people expected of me.
Yeah.
But that doesn't work when you can't live in that vibration if you're going to create your own path. You have to start practicing speaking, being in tune with what you want, what you need, what you can live with, what you can't live with.
Right.
So it took time. It took me being on tours and being in situations that were like, absolutely not. This is the line. This is the boundary. Like, you know, especially when you're on tour with you know, men. Should I go all the way there? I could.
I mean, I talk about my experiences with men and women.
Yeah.
And how it helped to shape and develop who I am.
Yeah.
So, hey. Yeah.
So in the early days, when in my early 20s, when I used to go out, and I didn't know them personally, right? And I definitely had some experiences where, you know, totally walked all over, you know, totally, like, almost, how do I say it gently? Let's just say people crossing boundaries with no apology, right?
Yeah.
In the beginning, I felt like, well, this is a part of the business. You're a woman, you're amongst men. That's just, you're going to have to just deal with it, put up with it. And then I had a conversation with my mentor, Cecil Bridgewater.
Pause. Mentors. Do you hear that, young ladies? Keyword, mentors. We talked about that for the first section, second, third, fourth, fifth. Now number 6, mentors. Get them. Find them. Continue.
So Cecil Bridgewater, he's a trumpet player, played with Max Roach for like, I don't know how many years, 30, 40 years or something like that. And
another pause. Keyword, mentors can be men and women. Continue.
In fact, Cecil Bridgewater, there's a lot of vocalists out here and women who are instrumentalists as well, who Cecil Bridgewater mentored and he looked out for.
Yeah.
You know, and he really looked out for me. I met him when I feel like I was 13 or 14. It was like All City.
Yeah.
All City.
All City, yeah.
Yeah. And I remember he would talk to me every time we had the meeting, and I'd be like, oh, and so did something and such, and they, you know, they ignore me when it's time to sing and blah 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 blah. And he's like, it's okay, girl, just go fight your way through there, you know, push through. And then I remember this one time where a little thing he told me to do is like, this drummer was being a Devo with me. And so I went back to Cecil. I said, what do I do? Because I want him to play, but, you know, he's doing a whole lot. And he was like, is he stressing you out? Do you need the stress? Now, I want you to take a mental note moving forward, because you're the band leader. You get to hire and fire, so take a mental note. That person's fired. And I was like, oh, I can do that. I can do that. So, and then, you know, as a result of like those little gems and things that Cecil gave me over the years, like now the cats I play with, ain't nobody being disrespectful to me anymore. Everybody's respectful, loving, caring,
and supportive.
Show up, supportive. You know, if we need to do a rehearsal, they're there for the rehearsal. They're not like, oh, I'm good. You know, the rehearsal is for me at the end of the day, right? For me to feel comfortable as a band leader. It's for all of us to feel comfortable. But in that one case, the guy was like, he was going to be fine. He was going to be good. He didn't need to come in. He was insulted that he needed to come to a rehearsal. And so anyway, that was that thing. But he was like, you know, I mean, you don't have to put up with anything you don't want to. You get to draw the line as to what you put up with. You get to decide what your bottom line is, right?
Yeah.
The other big gem that he gave me, which I always like to tell my students about, in respects to saying yes to gigs or saying no to gigs, in respects to like monetizing that. He said, "There's 3 reasons to take a gig."
I love your impersonation.
I'm doing a bad job today.
Sorry, Cecil. If you're watching.
See, baby, there's 3 reasons to take a gig. It's got the bread is good, right? It'll advance your career in some way.
Experience.
Right? Or it nurtures your spirit. Right?
Yeah.
2 out of 3 ain't bad. Right?
He's right though.
And I weigh it that way. From that moment, that's how I made decisions as to whether to say yes or no to a gig. So if the bread is really low, but the band is killing, and some people in the audience might see me, and I'm building I've got 3 more people added to my my devoted audience, then take the gig.
Yeah.
But if the bread is low, and the audience ain't nowhere to be found, and the band is mean or disrespectful or whatever the issues are, then you can kindly say no. Because actually, if you say yes to that, you're going to be sucking away at your creative energy.
Exactly.
And you want anything that you do always to add to your creative energy, or that you can frame it in a way in your mind. Here's how I'm going to benefit from this.
Yeah.
You know, because you want to be constantly growing.
Exactly.
You know.
And I love how you talked about Cecil telling you these gems at a young age, because for young musicians, all young musicians, men and women, it's important to have mentors, because they give you the tools and they give you little experiences to be able to learn and understand. These key core concepts are going to be with you for the rest of your gigging life. And unfortunately, I mean, it's a different day today where we can't just, you know, get an apprenticeship with a working band and be able to work 24/7 with them and travel all around the world, especially now because we don't have any gigs and everything has been shut down. But I love that you were able to share that. You were able to learn and get that experience, because it's important for all young musicians to understand and know you gotta start somewhere first. You gotta learn from somebody, either playing with them or singing with them, because that's where you learn. To go off and create your own band right away, you don't get the time to really sit in the incubator and learn those important things. Because that's what's going to help you get that 20, 30 years on your career and keep going, rather than the 3-4 burnout and, it was terrible. Like, well, who was guiding you?
Yeah.
How did you learn?
Yeah. I was just having this conversation with a friend of mine who's trying to get back into music, and music school specifically. And, you know, what's the value of learning from others, or learning, you know, transcriptions, right? For example, what's the value of that? Well, the value of that is, you know, if you don't know the language,
how you gonna talk?
How you gonna talk? I mean, it's simple as that.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't mean that you have to do it forever, you know, but some of the greatest musicians that I've known can play anything. You could just call a song and they be like, doom, ding, 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 ding. I always think about Christian McBride whenever I think about that. He's like, you could call any song and he'll play, he knows it.
Yeah.
Like it's like becoming a master at your art.
Yeah.
Learning as much as you can about what came before, so you can move forward and create something new. How can you create something new if you don't know what's already been done? You might be doing the same thing that somebody else done did.
Exactly.
I said done did. Sorry.
It's the truth, though.
So, you know, you gotta.
History.
I mean, that's my ministry, personally.
Yeah.
You know, I know everybody don't believe that, but you know, I would just hope, and it's also part of keeping this music alive, keeping the essence of this music alive.
Yeah.
You know, all great musics that come out of, like when I think about like Afro-Cuban music, right? That's rooted in an essence.
Yeah.
And even when they veer away from it, do more pop stuff, the essence is still in there because they grew up in that energy, in that essence, and they still they still, from my understanding, appreciate where all of this originally came from.
The root of it.
Yeah, the roots.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So anyway, I could go on and on.
I'm loving this. This is so amazing. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, let me ask you something. You're an educator. Mm-hmm. And as an educator, well, coming from your own personal experience as a young artist into now shaping and molding the path for other young artists, what would you say you wish would be available now for young artists, looking back at what you've gone through?
Oh, I miss the library and the Dewey Decimal System.
You going back.
Now, why I say that, I think that actually another way to say that is the records, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So and that's why I said the library, right? Because
I see you, Vincent. Sorry, continue.
Because it's like, when you would go through the little cards with the Dewey Decimal System, in the process of going through it, you saw a whole bunch of other stuff you could check out. All right.
Oh yeah.
Now with the records, you open the record up while you're listening to, the cover up while you're listening, and you're learning about the whole story of this record.
Yeah, the dates,
the other people's, and then you could go, oh man, that bass solo was killing. Let me go check out some other stuff that cat did.
Yeah.
It's harder to do this.
Yeah.
In the digital world.
It is.
Because if you go down the YouTube rabbit hole, a lot of times the personnel listing isn't there.
That's right. You might have a few music aficionados who will post that important information, but a lot of times, like you said, it's not there.
And so then how do you go down a rabbit hole of like, acquiring all this knowledge and having that obsessive eat, drink, sleep quality around each artist that you are interested in? How do you do that now? Yeah. How do you do that in this realm? And I feel like a lot of my students, they don't know how to connect that deeply into what they're learning. And I'm having to fill in that blank now. Yeah. So don't just listen to that one track off of that one recording. I really literally have to say this.
Yeah, I say the same thing too to my students.
It's like, no, go listen to the whole record. What else was, and I shouldn't have to tell you.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have to tell you this.
And find 2, 3, 4 other versions of the same song.
Come on now.
By other instrumentation.
Come on now. I'll be telling them 10.
Yeah. 3 or 4 is the easy way, but 10. Listen to the arrangements.
I'll be stressing them out.
I know, I do the same thing.
I know you really, some songs you can only find 4.
I be going in on them like, listen, check out the arrangements. What do they do for the intro? What's going on with the vamp? What's the substitutions they put up in there?
Yes.
What's the form? What's the difference? How many instruments? What instrumentation?
Like,
And they're like, ah.
Yes, you have to think about all these things. Yes, there's so much delicious knowledge in each song.
Yeah, each song.
In each record.
Yeah.
In each era. In each artist.
Each artist.
Anyway.
Yeah. No, but that's the truth. And I hope and pray that more students get to really appreciate and take advantage of the resources available today too, because even when we were coming up, we had to go to the library to get some videos to see a Betty Carter, to see a Dexter Gordon in action, how they're standing, how they're performing, how they're moving on stage, how they're communicating, all those things. And now with the click of a button, it's on YouTube. But now it's just a matter of, like you said, okay, sifting the information and then figuring out, well, who's who if the information isn't provided, because you can't depend on the person posting it to give you that information. So now you got to be the detective and be the historian and piece it together.
Well, you'd be surprised if you reach out to some of your mentors or your teachers. They probably have a whole library of CDs and records and cassette tapes and 8-tracks.
Right. Vincent Gardner, he can attest to that because he got a whole record collection. Hey, Vince. Hi, Vince. No, but that's the truth. You have to really love this music so much so that it's like you're creating your space for learning it. When you find something, it's like when you get a piece of good fruit. Like I had a plum the other day, and I was like, dang, this plum is so good. And I had the second plum, and I was like, nah, this ain't the same batch. But of course, the next day, you look for another plum, like, oh, okay, this is good. Music is like that. You have a bite of something really good, and then you want to keep going and find more. And that's what you have to do. You have to follow that urge and passion and desire to hear more, find out more, listen to other people, find other versions, read about their lives, find out the little bits of history about how they sold their albums. If somebody did or didn't put them out on the label, did they do their own label? How did they do it? Because all of those things is what helps us to kind of find our place today, I guess, with this music. Yeah.
Learn what's been done so you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
Right? It was done. People came up with things so that you could learn from them and not have to go through the same knocks on the heads,
Exactly.
So, I'm about that life.
I love you.
I love you too.
I got one last question because I know we're getting up to that time. If you were to drop a gem for young musicians today, particularly young women musicians, what would that gem be?
Oh, shoot. See, because I pass on all my Cecilisms. I love telling my Cecil stories. Let's see.
Yeah, it's a hard one.
That's a hard
one.
No, because, it's like, what would be something that, from what I've learned in life, that might be different from what other people... You know what? I would say, remember to return to the joy, the original joy that brought you to the music in the first place.
Yeah.
So what do I mean by that? I used to, I was reading this book. Can I say the name of the book?
I think it's okay.
Yeah.
It probably will get them more sales. Hey, it's Corona season. We got artists gotta support each other during this time because the work is not there. So say the name.
Well, it's a book that this professor put together. I can't remember what school they were at, but it's called The Artist's Way. And what I learned from that book was to always remember to make things playful, and if you can hold on to that original curiosity. So that means learn something new. So like, okay, so I've been singing standards and spang-a-lang, spang-a-lang. I love to swing, so there will never be a day that you won't hear me swing at some point in life. There will always be a little spang-a-lang somewhere. But how about astronomy?
Hey.
Or how about I was talking about music actually. What I was going to say. How about Indian classical music? If it strikes your spirit, or strikes your fire, or strikes your curiosity, go explore it and run after it to a masterful level.
Yeah,
like an obsessive way.
Yeah.
Eat, drink, sleep it. Because that's going to keep your musicianship developing. That's going to also keep you excited about what you're doing, keep you out of a rut. But it's also the whole purpose of what we're doing in the first place. That first day, I wasn't thinking about healing the world, making it a better place. That first day that I sang, I was overwhelmed and showered in the joy of it.
Yeah. I think a lot of us musicians could say that.
Yeah.
For me, what made me decide to stick with the tenor, and I wasn't happy about it at first, because I was like, this sucker is huge, it's low, it's not cute. But when I heard Dexter Gordon play, it gave me joy. And that joy is what I wanted to chase. And I've been chasing ever since.
Yeah, but you've been in it.
Yeah, I've been in it.
You in it, girl.
I've been living in that joy since, but yeah.
And it's really important to remember the joy when you're going through the tough times. So when I had those rough experiences on tour, like, that was the thing that saved me.
Yeah.
The joy. So in remembering, oh, I love to sing, and usually I would be feeling stressed out, and then when I get to on stage and feel the reflection back from the audience, it's like, oh yeah, this is why I do this, because I just love to sing and it brings me joy. And then that cycle, that energetic thing that happens with the audience that I'm missing so much.
I miss it too.
Just like, yes, that flow, that's where the healing is. So the healing's on the other end of that. But first you gotta start with your joy. So, yeah.
We got a few minutes. Do you want to do a quick impromptu?
Oh! What you want to do? Uh-oh.
I don't know. I mean, I figured we're together, so.
I love improvisation station. Ooh,
you want to do a blues? I could walk a bass line and then we could switch it.
Oh, Lord.
Or whatever.
She's a bad man with jam over here.
She's bad.
I like to play. Let's play.
All right.
Let's play.
What key you thinking?
Everybody. Okay.
You want to do that,
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Two,
Do you do? Shutting your diddly down, shoot my dog down, do by who we who, by who you hit the dog, shoot my dog down, do sa who we who, sa the dog, shoot my dog down, do that.
Shadow Papa Pui de Pui do Day. Shadow Bum Baby Better Better Day. Down on Diddly Shut it out on a booby. I know that she let dong bum dum the day I do body be la di shut up and
see that let it so baby do be how so bo ya did let she do be do he so bo so don't let Chape to be, chape petit do via, shubu do boy, shubu do boy, chape lede, shode yo de, shode yo de.
Shubabi boy, shubabi do lede ya de, shubabi da
Dead lady, should dead should you don't know they shut your love fail. Shit did let you pity.
Oh, they don't. Chat on bop, yeah, all the bop, bop, to bully.
Scott, bop, boom, boom, school, no me. Shit did. Oh, what should do you do? Shut you did it. Shoot that all day. I said, oh, shabu you do.
Shagoom boom.
Shut it shoot it all day. Shut it shoot it all boom, 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 boom. Yeah. Oh Lord, we tried. I tried.
We really did try.
She did it. She got the thing. She got the thing. All right, y'all.
Oh man, I just want to thank Charenee Wade for being my awesome guest for today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, anytime. You want to come back, let me know.
Yeah, part 2 coming up.
Part 2 in quarantine. But I'm going to open it up right now to people who have questions. If there's anybody in the chat room or if there's anybody on Facebook that got some questions, you can pop in a question real quick and we'll try to answer it for you. If you want us to.
Lakeisha said, yes, centerpiece. You know, I can't help it, girl.
That's right. Put it in for John Hendricks.
Oh, Tessel said, who's recording
Who's
this?
recording this?
Hey, Tessel.
Hey, Tessel. Does anybody have a question?
Oh, Mark was in there.
The ladies in the chat room, y'all have any questions?
I emailed my question, Whitney Marshall said.
Oh, okay. Let me see if I can pull it up. Oh, this is the bummer.
No.
I have to find it. Okay. I found it. I think I did. So this question is from Whitney, and my computer's trying to pull it up. What, if any, is the difference vocally of singing with a small group compared to singing with a big band? Mm-hmm. Okay, that's actually a great question. What is the difference?
I mean, when I was coming up, what I noticed, in respect to what my teachers asked me for differently, was that with the big band, because the arrangement is really set, you have to really learn the arrangement in a different kind of way. So for me, I had to learn to be flexible in a different way. Like, flexible in a more, controlled way. Yeah. Because, in a small group, you're free to just amiate things. Well, I mean, especially if you're the arranger. Yeah. It's less people, so there's more room.
And there's more room to kind of
to nudge it this way,
shape it whatever you want it to be, even though you might not intended it to go that way.
And with a full-on orchestra, feels like, okay, I gotta find my nooks and crannies more. It's more of a challenge there. And it becomes a little less more of a challenge, big band, and then a little less. So I think it's about the number of people. Yeah, and then I think it also has to do with the arranger as well. How much space that they leave you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of times when you're in a big band setting also, when you're singing, you have to really understand how to stay centered, because your first inclination is to compete against the band because it's so much sound that you have to really get into your head. I don't have to scream. I don't have to match their vibe. If anything, they're listening to me. Yep. So whatever I do as far as in the dynamic of my volume, I need to be very precise. If I'm going to be bringing it up, I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to bring it back down. I'm going to bring it back down so that I have that control to push and pull when I need to and not be on full blast the whole time and kill your vocal cords.
That is a great point, because that is a something that you have to. It's a process to learn how to gauge where your own personal boundaries are. Because you only get one pair of vocal cords.
That's right.
And so you can't max them out. Don't max them out. Don't max them out for nobody.
No, you can't do that.
And it's also like, the vocal instrument compared to, 20 horns. I mean, like, volume wise, it would make sense for you to not try to compete against that.
It would.
Yeah. So for the sake of safety specifically,
thank you very much.
Get one pair.
And also,
that's it.
Thank you very much.
It will never be the same. So you gotta take the best, greatest care of her or him.
And what do you do for care?
Oh, when I'm being good, the most important thing is rest.
Yeah.
The most important thing is sleep, because sleep is the time where your body does its restoration. All of its restoration. And it does it most effectively because it doesn't have to think about doing anything else, like walking around, like, any of those in subconscious motor systems that are already happening. I'll be making up my own words sometimes. So, but of course you drink water, as much as you can. I can do better with that.
We all can.
Hydration station, and also just paying attention to the body a lot more, being active, trying to be physical. I could do better with that. Just taking care of the body. Your body is the instrument.
That's right.
So anything that you can do to make your body feel better will make your voice feel better. But I'm just very focused on, all of those kinds of things. I try, if you got your little vice, then try to do your vice in moderation.
Yeah.
And everybody's body is different.
Yeah.
So like some people can drink milk, for example. That's like one of those things that, they say all vocalists shouldn't. Well, some people can do it.
Yeah. And
some of us cannot. If you notice inflammation coming up in your body, that's probably a sign. So inflammation is like phlegm, swelling, mucus, any of those kinds of things, congestion, all that stuff. If that's happening, then that means whatever that thing you're eating, you need to
cut it.
Okay. And you should, I would recommend all my students to do allergy tests and, go to the ENT, make sure that your vocal cords are healthy. Your nose throat doctor, our best friend.
They're your very best friend.
Yeah. Just make sure everything is healthy. You're not developing any bad habits. But yeah, that's kind of self-care that I try to do as often as possible. Yeah. And you?
Me?
Young lady?
I try to get rest. Of course, eliminate stress. Because stress will make your body shut down. Like I remember for me, I was running so hard one point, and I had a really, really big gig, and it was singing and playing. And I'll never forget, I felt funny about a week and a half before, and I had to cancel all my gigs leading up to that gig because I knew my body was starting to tell me something. And thank God I listened, because last time something like that happened, it actually shut down with no warning. And thank goodness at that time I didn't have any major gigs, but I knew my body enough to know that I was getting to that point where I needed to stop what I was doing and just completely lay low for a week and a half. And I did the gig. I didn't feel 100%, but I had 80% to work with versus nothing. So always listen to your body. If you know it's time to get some rest, get some rest. And if you're going to be doing a gig and you got another gig the next day, chances are, if you're going to hang, don't be at a screaming hang, because if your voice has already been tired and you're using it, and then you're going to hang out and you're screaming like, ah! The next morning, it's going to be stressed. It needs time to heal.
That reminds me of like how I learned about how to pace better. I was on tour, and the tour was supposed to be 3 weeks long.
Ooh.
And they extended it another week while we were out there. And so I said yes to it, but I was noticing that I was getting vocally fatigued because I wasn't sleeping. One, because of the jet lag, but two, also because there were some stressful things going on that tour. And then also just the way that the travel was set up, it wasn't set up in a way that felt good time to rest. So I learned that day, this is the amount of time that I need in order to get my body to the place where I can function optimally. you know, because you want to show up as your best self.
You do.
And so I had to let go of this idea, well, they want me to come in the day of the gig. Well, that doesn't work for me. I have to get in maybe a day, 2 days, ideally, before the gig if I'm going overseas, right? So that I have time to wind down, switch the clock around, get some sleep, and then my body will be there for me. My vocal cords will be there for me. You know, so, you know, sometimes it is a thing that you kind of learn on the job, but if you can start now figuring out what your body needs and honor it. Don't let anybody move that needle for you. Don't let anyone do it. Just honor yourself. Honor what you need. You're the one who knows best what you need. Just like when you're singing, and if you're overblowing your chords, nobody else is going to know really that this is happening,
right? Except
for you. You're going to know first. You need to honor and respect those vocal cords, because you only get one pair. I'm gonna keep saying that.
Thank you, you guys. And we also not forget to change our keys.
From Lynn, what are your favorite vocal warm-ups or studies? What do you daily do to work on your voice? We don't have a lot of time to go into it.
Yeah.
But I am going to suggest to you, Lynn, reach out to Charenee Wade, because might be able to take some virtual lessons and get some tips on some warm-ups and whatnot.
Yeah, I know Miss Lynn. We were in class together. Lenora's teaching online class together last month. I would just say real quickly, breathing is life. So even if you just started there, breathing in long tones, that's a great start. But there's a bunch of exercises that we could talk about.
For horn players too, long tones are your best friend.
It's all about the sound, getting the sound out of the body.
That's right. Well, thank you so much,
Charenee,
for joining us.
I love you.
We actually could go a little higher than that.
She go the higher. She got whistle tones. I can't deal with it.
Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Mama.
Awesome. I really enjoyed myself.
Me too.
And I hope everybody out there enjoyed this as well. If you want to find out more about Charenee Wade, please visit www.chareneewade.com. And also join us for the next Haven Hang. We're going to have some more sessions in August. The next session will be not next week, but the following week on Wednesday. I'm trying to pull up my calendar and it's acting really slow. All right, let's try the phone. Hopefully the phone works this time. Oh, okay. The next session will be August 12th. So be on the lookout for the information on that, and I'll have a special guest. I'm not going to tell you who it is because it's going to be a fun treat. So if you want to find out, go to www.camillethurmanmusic.com/thehavenhang. Leave your email, and I'll be happy to add you to the mailing list and let you know when the next Haven Hang will be, and you can join us. Thank you again for joining us today. We hope you had a wonderful time. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.